Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey Croson here with the Performance Lab of California, here to do another breakdown here today on JT Barrett. JT Barrett has been a big name in college football for a few years now, and he's finally going from Ohio State to the NFL. Going to probably be one of the top prospects, and just wanted to go through his throwing motion. I think there are some good things that we could definitely learn from when we actually look at his throwing motion and throwing style, so I just thought really quick I would just go through that, and we're going to get started here right now. The big thing that stands out to me about JT's overall throwing motion is really just his release. He is a little bit inefficient in his release, and really honing in on how and why that is, I think could really provide some benefit for you guys to see. So we won't really be able to see it from this angle, but we will be able to see it. So I think what he does really well is he does transfer and has that lateral shift in his body. So this is something that I really try to stress to people, is that you got to be able to get your hips moving. You can see that he starts with his, when he first steps, his hips are a little bit inside of his foot. It would probably be better if it was more right aligned, but it ends up working out because of how much lateral movement he gets in those hips. See how he gets a lot of momentum going? Now, he probably does that a little bit too early and doesn't really get the foot involved, so he's just kind of shifting with his hips and not really twisting with his hips, so he never really rotates and pivots off that back leg, so that never allows his hips to get rotating in front of his shoulder, which then makes it so he has to really push hard off of that front leg, which gets that big knee extension. And usually when you start getting a lot of that knee extension in, it makes it so you're going to have a harder time being consistently accurate. When you have to put a lot of knee extension and move those hips in a that knee very violently, again, that makes it so it's harder to become consistently accurate. You can still be accurate, but there's going to be times where you're going to end up missing, and there'll probably be certain throws that'll just be harder to make, and you can see that JT kind of struggles with that. So that would definitely be something to work on. And again, I'll show you real quick. It starts with just being able to push off that back leg and get that rotation going in those hips to make it so now your hips are opened up, and now you can continue movement in those hips rather than stopping the hip rotation and then having to really go through a lot of knee extension to bring your body weight forward. When you pivot off that back leg earlier, see how he's really trying to, at the very last second, all of a sudden just pivot off that back leg? That's too late. Okay, he should be already pivoting here. He should get some movement going in that back knee. I mean, there's a lot of, if you look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at Drew Brees, Tom Brady, that's what all those guys do. Phillip Rivers, I actually think Phillip Rivers is really, really good from a lower body perspective. You could look at him. Just with Kurt Warner, you could also look at him, see how those guys all rotate. Okay, now we'll look at how his release is. And this is where the inefficiency happens in the release. Really what wants to happen is when you go back, you want to get the ball the same height as the elbow, and you can see he does a good job of doing that. But now from this position, really what you want to start doing is you want that elbow to start coming up and through, and you want the ball to start twisting or rotating and make it so the nose of the football is facing straight ahead. What that is really called is supinating in that forearm. So you can see what he does instead is he just lifts that ball right back behind him, right? So now the ball is back behind his head, and the elbow never really moved, right? See how the elbow never really moves anywhere? Okay, that almost never happens with any of those top quarterbacks that you see in the NFL, where they, from this position, they're going to do they're really going to hone in on driving that elbow through. Okay, now from here, now he has to, because the ball's so far back behind his head, he has to rotate that ball all the way back around to then get it out from his release. And we can also see all of his weight is already transferred onto his front leg. So in terms of his body, he's ready to throw the football right now, right? All of his weight's ready to go. The ball should really be, I wish we could see more of the side angle, but it should be like even with his head, and he's ready to get rid of it. But instead, he's already, he's already used all the weight out of his bottom half, and the ball is still way back behind him. So now he has to go and really extend with that front knee to get everything going, and then he also has to get a lot of rotation out of his upper body in order to get the ball out of his hand. Now, there's two things that ends up happening here. One, he ends up having to use a lot more of his arm and his trunk in order to throw rather than using as much of his lower leg, and that's why he kind of he even tries to do a last-second push off his back leg to get a little bit out of it, but it's already really too late to use the lower body. He has to use trunk, and he also has to use his arm in order to generate all of his force, which is what really makes it so he doesn't have that elite level arm. He has a good arm because he Yes, he's a strong guy, he's a big guy, and he has to use a lot of his arm in order to be successful, but he's not as good as he can be because he's not using his lower body, and he also is, the second thing would be, his release is longer, right? If you're going to bring the ball back behind your head first and then rotate it around, you're going to end up having an overall just longer release. And that's a big thing in the NFL is you've got to be able to get the ball out of your hands quickly because all those guys are so fast. And so the sooner you can get the ball out of your hand, the better off you'll be. Here's another example where you can notice how he gets that ball back, and now, or after he loads, his load right here, I think is excellent. Okay, I think this is a great position to be in. Now, the next thing that he'd want to do is he'd want to start twisting and pivot off that back leg to get those hips to start rotating. Okay, and then he would also, instead of lifting the ball straight up, he'd want to start driving that elbow forward and making it so the ball raises, but is also supinating to make it so the nose of the football is facing straight ahead rather than bringing it back behind his head. So now he's already transferred all of his weight forward. Okay. And he hasn't even began bringing the ball forward at all. He just brought it back behind his head. And now he's going to try to do that last second pivot here as he begins to rotate the ball around from back behind his head to then throw the ball. And you can even see, this is where the inconsistency is going to end up happening. You can see how when he throws here, the ball comes out of his hand a little bit funny. It's not a great spiral because he has to use a lot more arm in order to throw, and he'd be able to be a lot more smooth, a lot more natural in his mechanics if he was able to really hone in on utilizing that lower body and also making that release a little bit more efficient. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching these videos. Really appreciate it. I love doing this stuff for you. Hope you're able to get some good information from that. I think it's a great video to really learn a lot from. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at Morey, M-O-R-E-Y, at yourperformancelab.com. Once again, Morey, M-O-R-E-Y, at yourperformancelab.com. Also, check out the link in the bio to learn more about our free online ebook, The Blueprint to the Perfect Throw, as well as check into our 5-month online program. Super good program. We're going to release a testimonial video here pretty soon, or a video that shows how much people have been improving by going through our 5-month online program. We go through the strength side of it as well as the mechanics side of it to really make it so you can become a lot better quarterback in a very short amount of time. In 5 months, I think we're going to make a huge difference in terms of your biomechanics during your throw, as well as a huge difference in your overall shoulder strength, your core strength, your ankle range of motion, your stability. We're going to work on all the things that you need in order to be truly successful as a quarterback. So, check out the link in the bio to find out more about that. And the same thing, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at my email. Again, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.